Return to work mandates. Let's aim for your promotion next year. We don't have any money for bonuses right now. You hear those things and you ask yourself, should you quit or stay? Now, if you're a mid-career leader, that question is probably living rent-free in your head right now. You're exhausted. You're good at what you do. And some days you fantasize about just walking out. And other days you convince yourself you'd be crazy to leave this salary, these benefits, and the stability of this role. And you go back and forth like this. Meanwhile, nothing actually changes. Now, surveys show that nearly half of workers in the United States are thinking about leaving their jobs because of stress or burnout. And fully 60% of workers say they've rethought their entire career in the last few years. And at the same time, people who quit without a plan wind up scrambling to get back to something like the job they just left in the first place, stuck yet again. And so no wonder you feel stuck. Welcome into the channel. My name is Tom, the founder of Vertical Motion, where we help good people become great leaders. We do this by teaching you how to become an authentic, empathetic, and audacious executive, either moving up in the corporate ranks or moving out and building your own organization, building your own business empire. If those are interesting to you, there's links down below in the description of this video for you to understand what we do and some masterclasses that we teach that will help you understand what we talk about in a little bit more detail. What we're talking about today is the question that is on at least half of employees' minds right now, which is, should you quit your job? So first of all, let's normalize something. If you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I don't know whether I should quit or stay or do something else, you're not alone. This is actually normal right now in society, and it's not your fault. It's a kind of messed up system that we have right now that's causing this. It's not that you're indecisive, it's that you're kind of in a broken environment. Now, Gallup data shows that only 23% of workers are actively engaged in their work. That means another 77% of people are disengaged or actively angry about their work. And a recent burnout survey shows that 63% of workers who responded to that feel burnt out multiple times every week and have thought about quitting their jobs because of that feeling of burnout. And at the exact same time, other research shows a big drop in people actually quitting without another job lined up, especially mid and late career, because the financial risk just feels terrifying. And so this means that a lot of mid-career leaders feel stuck. They're trapped. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. So they're numb and disengaged, but they're afraid to do anything out of fear. And that's the pain that you are in right now. And that's the pain that most people are in, being afraid to leave, but also being miserable if you stay. So what do you do here? What is the way to figure out where you should move your career from here? So let's talk about that. Now, what you need to do is, instead of asking this vague emotional question, should I quit my job and just go teach yoga in Bali? No, you need to answer this question by asking the right questions in a structured format. And what I do is I work with our clients to answer 4 questions or focus on 4 key areas of their career and their life. And those 4 are money, meaning, momentum, and risk. Let's dive into all 4 of these and talk about what each of these mean for you. So let's start with money. Money isn't just about, do I like my paycheck? It's how underpaid or overpaid I am compared to the market. What's my 5-year trajectory if I stay in this current role? What's my realistic earning trajectory if I leave? And how much financial runway do I actually have? So research from multiple studies shows that money and burnout are the top 2 reasons people quit. But it also shows a large share of people who leapt for a quick pay bump ended up regretting it when the new job was just as bad or worse. And I can speak from personal experience here. I had what I called the 3-year career. Every 3 years, I got sick and tired of the organization I was in, and I wound up moving to another organization every 3 or 4 years. And it was super frustrating for me because I would get somewhere like, I can fix this place, and then I couldn't fix this place, and then I find a new place that wants to be fixed, and I go there and like, I can fix this place, and the loop starts over and over and over. So you get to a point where you are tired of being underpaid for what you do, but the thought of leaving that stable paycheck in a shaky economy like the one we have right now feels a little daunting and almost irresponsible. So the money is one of the lenses that you look at your career. The second lens to look at is meaning. And I like to use Ikigai and other tools to help people determine what their life purpose is and then align their career to it. How aligned to your life purpose is your career? And here's a better question. What is your life purpose? What is the purpose that you feel like you should serve on this planet with the time that you have given? Most people don't take the time to think about that. And so how can they align their career with life purpose when they have no idea what their life purpose is? Or if they know their life purpose, how do you actually manage to move your career in that direction? If your life purpose is to create family experiences and around food, well, that doesn't exactly translate to a high-paying job. Are you going to be a short-order cook? No, there are other ways, right? So YouTubers, for example, teach cooking in their homes on YouTube and make some pretty great food, and they make millions of dollars from doing those kinds of things. There are ways to monetize your life purpose or make money so that you have the capacity to do your life purpose. But here's what's really interesting. With meaning, you can actually make less money doing something you love. Because what I've learned is that money is a proxy for the pain that we tolerate doing something we hate. In other words, if you hate doing what you do, you have to make more money to keep doing it. If you love what you do, you don't even need to make money to do it. You'll do it for free because you love doing it. And so moving your career towards something that gives you meaning will obviously make your career go a lot easier. The third lens is momentum. What kind of momentum do you have in your career right now? Are you just sitting there getting passed over for promotions, told, well, we're not really seeing the growth that we expect in you, so we're going to wait till next year to put you into an education program? Or just like, hey, you're doing a great job. Here's a 4 out of 5. Here's a 3% raise. Good job, right? Like if you're hearing things like that, that's kind of like flatline. You're not really changing anything. And all you're doing, quite honestly, is waiting to get laid off. Because at some point, keep doing what you're doing long enough and you will get laid off. That's just the reality. I've seen recently people, 25-year career in an organization, and he got laid off in a group layoff with like 200 other people. Can you imagine spending 25 years of your life in an organization to be laid off in a group? If your responsibilities are expanding, but your pay, title, and influence aren't, it feels like you're probably not moving in the right direction. And it feels like you have no momentum in your career. And staying in a low momentum environment is one of the riskiest things that people can do in their career because the money is just good enough. The pain is just low enough that you'll tolerate it for another year, and another year, and another year, and another year. So the fourth lens to look at yourself through is risk. And this is the hardest lens to stare at yourself with. Most people, their vision goes blurry when they think about the risk of losing their income, of not having any money. And I can tell this because when I talk to people who are laid off, they are absolutely in a scarcity mindset. And the reality is that it's very hard to invest in yourself unless you are in a mindset of abundance. Scarcity is when you see your checking account only going in one direction, right? You have been laid off, you have no income, and now you are scrambling to find something, anything, searching LinkedIn desperately, sending resumes out like crazy, calling friends you haven't talked to in 8 years. Hey, you got a job over there, right? That's what we do. And it's because you're freaking out, because you're in scarcity. And I have been there myself several times. I remember at one point in my career, I had no idea how I was going to make a mortgage payment in 3 weeks. There was no money left to make that payment, and I didn't know where I was going to get it from. And so I understand the mindset that people are in when they are in a state of scarcity in their career. You want to be solving your problems well before you actually wind up in that state of scarcity, because when you are in a state of abundance, that's when you can see the opportunities all around you. When you're in abundance, you see the resources you have as things you can invest in order to bring to you more prosperity. When you are in a state of scarcity, all you're thinking about is, how do I keep these resources? I have to give out just a little bit for groceries and mortgage and car payments and so forth, but I have to keep as much as I can. And you don't think about investing those resources. It's not just money, but your time, your energy, your attention, and other resources that you have. Think of it like car insurance. You don't call up State Farm and get a policy while you're on the side of the road in a hit and run, right? Like, that's not when you get insurance. You need to be investing in yourself way earlier than that. But most people don't, because they don't feel enough pain to actually do anything about it, because their job is just good enough. Their pay is just good enough. And so you wind up in this state where the risk of leaving is greater than the risk of staying until the risk of staying absolutely destroys your entire livelihood. And now the risk is everywhere and there's no way out. And so risk is a tough lens to look at yourself through. What is your risk appetite? What is your risk profile? How much risk are you willing to take? And how risky is it to keep all of your income coming from just one person or just one company, right? So looking at yourself through these 4 lenses, money, meaning, momentum, and risk, helps you understand what it is that you're actually looking for next in your career. And I'm going to give you 2 examples of what this looks like, what it looks like to move up and what it looks like to move out. So the first person who moved up specifically, let's call her Maya. She was 42 and she was a senior manager at a healthcare company. In terms of those 4 lenses, money, she was underpaid by about 20% relative to the rest of the market, but the benefits were pretty good. In terms of meaning, she still believed in the mission of the company, taking care of people who couldn't take care of themselves anymore. But her position had drifted more into bureaucracy and less about the actual care. Her momentum was flat. She had been in the same role for 5 years, and there's really no sign that she would be able to move up. But she was also doing the work of a director level role. So she's being paid as a senior manager, but she's doing the work of a director. And in terms of risk, she's got a huge mortgage, 2 kids that are in private school, and really no appetite for risk in between jobs. And so running the 4 lenses here, you realize pretty quickly that quitting outright isn't really the path, but also staying put is kind of untenable for her. Now, we use this framework to help her realize what she should do, which is stay, but change the conditions of staying. And so this is a third option. Quit, leave. This is stay, but change the conditions. She did a really good job of mapping out what she actually did for the organization in metrics and numbers. And she got people to see what she was actually doing. This is the biggest problem that we see with people stuck like this is visibility. They're just not seen by their leadership. They don't see what you actually do. And so we helped her figure out how to be visible, how to be seen as the very successful director level executive that she actually has been operating at for the last 3 or 4 years. Then she had a very direct conversation with her direct supervisor and ultimately with the vice president in charge of the entire division. And the conversation went something like, here's what I do for this organization. It is really at a director level. These are the numbers, these are the responsibilities, these are the scope. And if I look around our industry, that's a director level position at this pay level. And she said, I need this role to be sustainable for me, and right now it's not. Within 6 months, that led to a promotion, a sizable increase in income, and a sense that she was actually finally moving again in her career. So she got more money, more meaning, more momentum, and without taking the risk. And she got her career back. So that's someone who moved up. Let's talk about someone who moved out. And I'm going to refer to this person as David. As a mid-40s tech leader in a high-tech company. Now, his money situation was solid. He was making well over 200, but his top line was capped. He couldn't really grow in income at all. And in fact, his compensation hadn't changed in 3 years. In terms of meaning, well, that was completely gone. His role had become basically political cover for bad things that his organization was doing. His momentum was actually negative. High performers around him were constantly leaving this organization, leaving him with more responsibility, but no additional compensation for that responsibility. Now, in terms of risk, he had about 9 to 12 months of runway actually saved up in a savings account. His wife was also employed, and they actually used her health benefits, and he had a really strong external network. So when you look at David's situation through these 4 lenses, you realize that his path is brutally obvious. He really should go build his own thing or take time away from this job that's draining him so that he can figure out what he should do next. And that's exactly what David did. So he left his role with a 12-month runway while his wife continued to provide the benefits for the family. And he said that he would spend 6 to 12 months of time learning how to build a consulting business. And if a really cool opportunity comes along, then he'll take it. And that's exactly what happened. So David spent the next 9 months basically doing consulting work. He was tapped on the shoulder. He was reached out to by a recruiter on LinkedIn who saw what he was doing as a consultant and said, we have a full-time position as a vice president that you would be perfect for. Would you be willing to interview? He took the interview, but he didn't have any hey, my consulting business is great. He wound up taking the interview. They liked him so much, they made him an offer. And what we helped him do was negotiate this offer so that they actually paid him for winding down his consulting business. So he got a nice, big, giant signing bonus because he had to turn down a bunch of consulting work in order to work full-time for this company. Higher pay, higher title, more momentum, more connection to his meaning in life, less risk. All of these things came to him because he looked at his situation through these 4 lenses and realized, it's not risky for me to go take a chance. It's actually wise for me to do this. So you can see how these two people with similar situations, but slightly different lenses, you realize they're actually aimed in 2 different directions. And that's what we help these 2 people do. But what about you? Where are you stuck right now? And here's your problem. Most people try to run this analysis in their head, but they do it at like 2 a.m. when they're like fueled by anxiety and they have no idea what they really want to do. And you wind up bouncing between 2 extremes, like, screw it, I'm out, screw this place, I'm leaving. Or, I really can't risk this, I'll just stay here 1 more year. And without any numbers, without any framework, without looking at yourself through these 4 lenses, you'll never actually create a real plan. And so that's why I've built this new assessment called the Mid-Career Crossroads Assessment. You can find a link for that down below here, and you can also find the link in the description of this video. This Crossroads Assessment helps you understand what direction you should take in your career from here. Should you move up? Should you move out? Should you quit and just build a consulting business or go teach yoga in Bali? Or should you continue to move your career forward with a real plan? And so the answer is different for everyone, and it's also different for people at different times of their lives. So what may be right for you today was probably wrong for you a couple years ago, or vice versa. So I want you to take this assessment and I want you to find out for yourself, should you be moving out towards building your own empire, or should you move up correctly inside of large organizations where you can have more influence and impact? And think about how these 4 lenses will change your thinking as you get this results, right? So you'll be thinking about how much money you need or want. You'll be thinking about how much meaning you need to have in your work. You'll be thinking about the momentum you do have or don't have right now. And you'll also be thinking about the risk. How much risk are you willing to take? Are you able to take? And so use those 4 lenses when you go through the questions in this Crossroads assessment. And I think what you'll find is an answer that you probably already know in the back of your mind, but this should solidify that answer for you. So don't let another year go by where you just keep asking yourself the same question. Should I quit my job? I want to quit my job. How do I do that? Stop. Don't just continue down this like circling rabbit hole that just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Let go of that and actually put some real data and analysis to the question so that you can figure out what path you should take and then go learn how to take those paths. And we have programs that help people do both. The Executive Career Accelerator teaches people how to become an executive. The Career Freedom Accelerator teaches people how to move out of their corporate role and use the skills and experience that they have to monetize a coaching, consulting, or fractional expertise business. So either way, whatever the answer is, there's a path for you either here at Vertical Motion, elsewhere on your own. But go figure this out for yourself. Go take that free assessment and learn something about yourself and finally make a decision to move forward in your career one way or the other. That's what I have for you today. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.